It would depend on the educational setting. For younger kids, I think Game Maker would be really great. But for older kids who want to get into other kinds of programming down the line, it wouldn't be as good. So Game Maker has a lot of fantastic resources for beginners. Built into the program, there's a beginner mode. There's an online community with tons of graphical and audio resources and programming examples and tutorials. And there's also a really nice GUI that it has. So that will simplify a lot of the animations and more visualized components of game development. You'll get the idea of how basic programs flow. You still have scripts that have a series of commands that go in order. You have all the basic mathematical things that you would see in other languages. You have a lot of the same style and syntax of how to call functions, and you have a more or less object-oriented environment that you're dealing with. So there are a lot of concepts that will translate over to programming. Now, there are some places where Game Maker lacks. For instance, it doesn't have a true object-oriented design. It has its own little model that's similar but not exactly the same. So there's this trade-off of how much there's a trade-off of how much a Game Maker will do for you versus how much you can learn from it, because it's hiding things from you. How important is learning versus getting exciting about learning? And the answer is you need a little bit of both. When you have a highly motivated student who doesn't know any kinds of programming, he won't be able to make a game. Now, he might be better at learning how to make the game, but at some point he still needs to learn. Versus a student who may know how to program in Python but hates it because he had a bad experience starting off. He's just so confused all the time. Then you have someone who's essentially stopped his learning. So there's got to be this trade-off. And my own path was that I started with Game Maker and spent a few years working with that, and then I moved on to a more traditional programming language. It's a good way to get kids started, but eventually it's like a bicycle. You start with training wheels, and eventually you probably take them off. I would compare Game Maker to having training wheels. Eventually you want to take them off and start making a larger game that has access to deeper things. Or you want to go into other kinds of programming that you won't be able to do in Game Maker. You won't be making any websites in Game Maker, for instance. So when I first started programming Game Maker, they were only starting off with a community where you could upload your game and have it played right in the browser. And that was super exciting. I mean, you could suddenly get all this feedback on your game so quickly. Having that kind of user community is actually one of the most amazing parts of Game Maker. And it's something that Scratch has too. One of the things that I've learned from my own research in educational game development is that kids love the social aspect of gaming more than anything else. If you can have people working together, it just shoots up their motivation like crazy. And this isn't just for playing games, this is for making games too. So when people can get feedback on what they're doing and show off their game to other people, they like it a lot more.